Lorena Perdomo, LorePerdomo, and thank you for following me every Thursday here in all social media. So I really appreciate, and for all of those who subscribe already to our channel, YouTube channel, thank you again. As you may know, we're doing a series of educational videos about how to invest, how to take the maximum opportunity of all your investment properties, and how will be the right way to do it. So today we have a specific topic that is how to group properties when you have like a portfolio 10 or 5 or 20 properties. So how would be the way or the proper way to group them to minimize risk and probably to get better way to present it in case that you get audited from the taxes, from the IRS, or what would be the best way to set everything, all your portfolio, when we're talking about investment properties. So once again, thank you for following us, and we are here in Central Florida, and the numbers that we're doing right now are in base of Florida properties. So just keep that in mind. Every state is different, and so that will be probably more in towards Florida, what we are going to discuss. Obviously, if you want to invest here in Florida, we got great returns, and we have a team ready to help you to jump into one of these properties. So let's go to the topic, that is how to group the properties. So last time we were talking about LLCs, what will be the preferred structure of the LLC. So today we are going to talk about how many properties have to be in each LLC. So some people prefer to have one individual property for one LLC. That is completely fine. I mean, probably that would be the ideal way to prevent any lawsuit or any issues in the future. But when you have eventually more and more properties, it can start to be complicated because you may have 20 properties, so now you have 20 LLCs. And remember that each LLC has some fees that you need to be paying every year. So probably the fees start to accumulate when you have more properties. And also remember that each LLC have to have their own bank account. So everything starts to be more complicated in that way as well. So the best way to group them, it can be because the cash that the property is producing or the equity. So we normally try to group them by equity, because in that way you are reducing the risk, and everything comes to the risk that you are willing or your tolerance to the risk. So, but why equity or why cash flow? So remember, equity is basically the money that you already have, technically, right? So it's the difference between the market value of the property and the loan or the mortgage, the balance of that mortgage that you have. So that will be the equity. So let's say you have a $200,000 property, but your loan is only $100,000. So you have $100,000 on equity. So what you're trying to do is group them depending on the equity you have. Now, also depends what kind of property you have. If you have a properties in the neighborhoods A, B, or C. So if you have properties on a nice neighborhoods, but depending if they have a good equity, you probably want to group them. Or if you have properties on a neighborhoods that you have more cash flow, so it depends also if you wanted to mix them, and we will see that in a moment. Now, also depends how many properties you have, because if you just have one or two, well, probably you will be able to group those two in just one LLC, will be more easy. But again, when you start to accumulate more and more in your portfolio, start to grow, you probably will be looking to see what would be the best way to mix them. All right, so again, everything comes to comes to the risk that you are willing to put out there in case something happens. So normally what I like to do is probably group the properties that are giving more performance with those that has equity. So that would be the way that probably you're trying to set up everything. So in this example, we already talked about what is equity and what is cash flow. So you remember, cash flow is the money that you are receiving for the property, how much is the money that you are getting from the rent. And equity, as I mentioned before, will be the value of the house. How much is that amount of money that you have? So that would be the two ways that you can probably set up those properties in the LLC. Now, let's say you have, let's say for instance you have 3 or 4 properties. So here will be the equity and here will be the cash flow. So let's see how we can set up that. Let's say in the first house you have $200,000 equity, right? So let's say in the second property you may have $100,000 equity. Let's say if in the third property you may have $250,000 equity, depends on the property value, and we have 100,000 here, sorry, 120,000. So, you know what, let me make some changes here. So probably I want to have only $50,000 on equity here. So if that's the case, that would be the equity. Now let's talk about how much cash flow you're getting from each property. So let's say that in this one, remember, cash flow is the money that you are receiving after you spend all the money. So let's say in this one, your cash flow is only, it's not that much, but you have a good equity here. So that's the difference. So in the second one, let's say you're getting more money on this particular property, but your equity is not that much. But then we have another property that is giving you probably good return, and you have a high equity on this particular property. And we have a new one, the last one, probably you only have $100,000 on equity, but you're getting good returns. Let's say just 3. So on this one you may have 1, maybe 4 on this, 3, or maybe two of those. So again, everything about the tolerance of the risk that you have. So you probably want to group. I would say maybe 50,000 with 120. It will be a good match because on here you have basically $170,000 on equity that you're risking. So let's say, for instance, something happens and you got a lawsuit, so you are only risking here $170,000. Now, if you can see here, you have the best performance property because you're getting more cash. So I would probably group these two. So my risk here will be $170,000. If you get a lawsuit, this is the money that probably you will be looking, because remember, these properties are all in that LLC. So that LLC owns technically $170,000, right? Now, you probably wanted to keep that one with $250,000 in just one because you have more equity here. And probably the other one will be 200. In this scenario, you have 3 LLCs. I would probably do that because, again, I wanted to reduce the amount of risk that I'm going to have exposed in case something happens. So if you have, let's say, 4 properties and you only have 1 LLC, you basically are risking $450,000, $650,000, $620,000 here. You are exposing that risk in case something happens. So Just keep in mind that everything is about how much risk you are considering to take in case something happens. But also, you wanted to reduce that because we need to be realistic. We are in a society like anything can happen, and this is the money that you've been working really hard during the years to accumulate and to be able to pass to your generation. So you probably wanted to keep it in a safety place just to avoid any future circumstances or situations. So now, if we technically have 2 LLCs, so each of these houses will be each individual LLC. And as I mentioned before, each LLC have to have a bank account. So when you receive equity, this equity have to come here to each individual bank account just to keep it in line in case you get audited by the IRS, okay? So in this scenario, so you have one that will be 170, that will be your risk tolerance for this, talking about having 2 properties here, and we have one with 200, right? Well, 250, that will be 1 property, and probably you may have another one with 200. So I hope this video explained you how to set up this in the way where you are protected, and also in the way that everything is on base of equity. If you wanted to learn more about how to do this, or if you are looking to start your investment portfolio, just give us a call, because we are here in Central Florida and there is a lot of different alternatives for you to start to make some money, because that's the basically our final goal. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can follow us in all different social media platforms. So this is LorePerdomo, and I will see you next Thursday with more information about how to invest in real estate here in Central Florida. Don't forget my phone number, 407-913-9388. Ciao, ciao.